Hi, I'm Chef Vikramjit Roy. Catch me on GQ, India's first food and drink festival, where I'm going to be at the bar making some delicious Japanese bar snacks over my Oaksmith Gold. Right, so the first dish that we're going to make is gyoza, right? Gyozas are typically very pertinent Japanese kind of a snack that could be had over your beer or your cocktails or your sake. What we're going to make is a vegetarian version of the gyoza, right? You will see after this how you actually make the gyoza properly in terms of the shape and size, but essentially the stuffing here is cabbage. You've got some aromatics like ginger, you've got some onions, some carrots, and basic seasoning. That's made in this particular form. You could obviously make it in any shape. Once that's done, you kind of heat a pan nice and clean. And we just need to char the bottom of the gyozas, right? There you go. And over slow heat, you let it get charred nice and brown, and then you want it to be caramelized nicely so that you get that crunch while you're eating it. Generally gyozas are served with a chili oil ponzu. Chili oil ponzu is nothing but a mixture of yuzu, which is a Japanese lime, right, with some soy and a little bit of chili oil with sesame oil. You could have it with any other dipping sauce that you want to, but that's typically how you have it, with a little bit of scallion and sesame seeds sprinkled around it. So you see how nicely the color has kind of transformed. Right, so this is the color that you would want to have. Right, so that's what we are looking for. We've got it right there. So you may want to steam your gyozas, before you pan saute. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of place them on a banana leaf. Right, I like to kind of hold the gyoza there, a little bit of scallions around it, some sesame seeds, a little bit of color here and there, and finally I'll plate it in two different ways for you, right? The first are these tuis, right? So these are made with potato starch. You just need to do really nothing than kind of dilute the potato starch in water. Take a hot non-stick pan, throw in a ladle of it, let it cook slowly. Once it slowly cooks, these patterns form on their own, right? You could either place it on top like that for an extra crunch, right? And then put a bit of colors on it. Just sprinkle a little bit of color on it, right? So that's the first way. These are again all pro tips coming your way, right? So that's the first plating, right? We serve it with, ideally, as I told you, we serve it with yuzu chili sauce, right? So that's the yuzu chili sauce. We also have got a few other sauces here. We've got a crunchy chili right here, a chili garlic sauce, and a ginger scallion. Right? The second way of serving it is that you don't put this as a whole, right? But you break it down into smaller pieces, right? Just like so, right? And you place them in between the centers, right? Just very roughly arrange it in no particular fashion, right? You don't have to follow a pattern here. That's your second way to plate it. Both of it look very good for me. Whatever that you like. That's the way. The idea of these tuis, of these tuis is to make sure that you get an additional crunch, right? It's just not for show, but also to get those different textures going on in the mouth when you're eating it, right? Ideally, you just take these gyozas, you dip it in your preferred sauce, and you drink it with your beer or your Oaksmith Gold. that we are making is a great amalgamation of the best of ingredients that Japan has and that we also have in common. So it has got prawns. So these are white leg prawns from Andhra, right? You've got what else you need is are pineapples that just kind of cut into dices and caramelized in a pan, right? You've got some coconut flakes here, and you've got corn, right? That's kind of in the form of a mash, right? The pro tip for these, there are two pro tips here, right? The first one is the marination of the prawn, right? Generally, for any other cuisine, you would want to kind of marinate the prawn overnight so that the flavors can go in. But whenever you're cooking Japanese food per se, no flavors are as dominant, should be as dominant that it kind of becomes king, right? It should be a great team play between all the ingredients, right? So I personally would never marinate prawns for more than 45 minutes, right? So the prawn has been marinated in miso, which is white miso, right? You get those very commonly in supermarkets, and tobanjan, which is a Japanese fermented chili. If you don't have access to tobanjan, you could use any chili paste. Does that you have to make sure that the spice level is not too high. It's pungent and it has got just that kick. So the saltiness comes from the miso and the spiciness comes from the chili paste, right? That's just been marinated here like that. What we're going to do is we're going to take these prawns, right? Just dab them in the coconut flakes. So these are very common desiccated dried coconut flakes, right? So we take them, and then it goes directly. You just shake them before you kind of put them. Lightly oiled pan, right? And we put the prawns right there. Little drizzle of oil. Gently flip them around. And it should not take more than 3-4 minutes to cook the prawns, so you don't have to rush through it. Just flip them once. So whilst the prawn is cooking, right? Here we are ready with the corn mash. So what is the components of the corn mash? Generally it's corn that's kind of cooked with a little bit of ginger. You've got some onions, a little chili, all of it, and then blend it up and then as a mash. The consistency of it should be exactly like that. You don't want it to be too runny, but you don't also want it to be too thick, because you just want to have a coating of the prawns of the corn right here. Almost done. See, that's the thing about any Southeast Asian cooking, is that you really don't need to do much to it. Just a little bit of cooking required and very little flavoring. I like to finish the prawns with a little bit of butter, right? So right before I take it out, add a knob of butter, flame down, make sure that all the prawns get a little bit of that butter. So that's the final prawns, right here. So now eventually for plating, we need the prawns, we need the corn mash, we need the caramelized pineapple, and a few herbs and spices here and there that we'll show you once we are plating. Always try and use molds when you're plating some mashes and stuff, right? So it gives you a nice control over the edges, it doesn't get scattered here and there. So we're going to take a nice round mold right here, put it in the center of the plate, right? And then we start off with the corn mash, right? We very simply put the corn mash at the bottom of the plate, right? Give it a little dab, just so it spreads evenly, right? Take the mold off. See how nice and even the entire shape is, right? Now we place our prawns, right? Place it on top. The idea is to eat the prawns with the corn mash so that it gives you the variety of flavors that exist. Right? And that's it. Right, the caramelized pineapples, we kind of just place them on top of the prawns, so that with every bite you get a piece of pineapple at least to give you that acidity. Finally, you have I have kind of a herb crumble, right? So it's very simple. It's all kinds of herbs that you may get your hands on, be it celery, leeks, basil, chilies. That's all kind of dried out a little bit and then grounded up, just to give you an element of spice, a hint of spice that is different. And then you finish off with a little bit of scallions. For the color, you may want to put in streaks of beetroot. This is actually a canvas for me. While I'm plating it, I kind of always treat this as a canvas and express what I am feeling. Just a bit of sesame seeds. So if you look at it carefully, you will come across it will come across firstly as a piece of art. There is a lot going on. The colors are all nice. There are different shapes. There are different. The plate pattern is very unique. So you actually start eating Japanese food with your eyes first, right? And then the smell, the aroma, and then you eat. Then you actually taste the food. So it's very important that all these aspects are being honest to. That we are honest as cooks and chefs. We are honest to that entire approach that we have for presenting the food up. Oaksmith Gold actually goes well with almost everything, but I personally like it with Southeast Asian flavors and specifically Japanese flavors. It kind of balances the entire meal. So I this is my personal use. I love it, and hope that you enjoy these bar snacks with an Oaksmith Gold just as I do. Cheers.